Hi everyone, it's Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening and Laser Engraving. Right now we're looking at my Laser Pecker Four, the first laser that I ever purchased for my knife sharpening business when I decided I wanted to be able to do knife engravings. I'm going to tell you all about it, how I got involved with it, what I think its capabilities are, and who it might be great for today, and just show you the things that I think are interesting, the accessories that are available for it, and we'll go from there. Here's the Laser Pecker Four. It's this unit that is right inside of this case. This case is basically has two purposes. One, it's a fume extractor, so it helps take any of the smoke and dust and things that will come off of lasers out and away from the room, and I'll show you all about that. But basically, the laser itself is just this piece that's inside there. So let's kind of drop down here. All right, so here is the main laser. Right here is the lens. There's a little cap on it. I'm going to take that off. So right here we have the laser. We have the base plate area. And this is the area that this laser can engrave within. This base plate is even removable because you can actually use this by taking the base plate out, holding the laser up against something and shooting right through it and then laser engrave on something. So say you wanted to use it to laser engrave something on a wall or in a place that something you couldn't put under here, you can actually bring the laser to something, which is really cool. Take this plate out, hold it up against it, and laser engrave something that way. This laser is also pointable in several directions, so I can change the angle, pitch, and height, and all kinds of adjustments on this laser. Using this piece down here, I can adjust all of that stuff. In the back here, you're just seeing a little fan. The fan takes that smoke and debris away. Down below, you'll see I have a little gray unit down here. This is the air cleaner. So inside here, it takes the air out of here into here, and then it actually has an ejection port. And you can see that little black pipe there is where any of this, the clean air comes back out of. Now, you can also route these outside if you need to, but the nice thing about this is it's, like I said before, it's a very portable unit. So this was designed to be able to take places. So if you had to go on location and engrave things, if you work at a lot of like farmers markets or shows or craft things, you could bring this with you and do engravings on location. Still have your fume extractor to keep things nice and safe. You can use the little case here to keep everyone's eyes protected, because that's what the glass does. It protects people from looking in there, because lasers can hurt your eyes. So this is protective glass that is designed to protect for both the lasers that are in here. And let's talk a little bit about that. So there are actually two lasers in here, and I'm gonna take the camera off for a second. So we are looking at the very top of the laser, and I'm gonna touch it. It's a touch screen, and you'll see it'll turn on. So right now it's showing you 1064 nanometers, which is a infrared laser. It's a 2-watt infrared laser, and its main purpose is to engrave metal. Now, it's actually technically, according to Laser Pecker out there, it's a 2-watt fiber laser. Now, 2 watts isn't incredibly strong for a fiber laser, but what's nice about it, it will engrave metal. And when I first got started with lasers, there were very few lasers that were affordable that could engrave metal. You needed a fiber laser, but at the time when I first started looking at them, and this is in my channel trailer, they were close to $8,000 and up. And that was just way more than I wanted to spend. So I waited at that time. And I've mentioned before, the reason I got interested in lasering things is because I had a client who wanted me to engrave 159. So as I said, there's two lasers in here. The other laser is a 450 nanometer laser. So you see I just clicked over here and it actually shows blue. The blue is because it is a blue laser. So it's a blue light laser, and if you looked at it, you would see it looks like a blue light coming down. Now the blue light laser is for different materials. So it can do mostly softer things, but that's not entirely, we can't just say, oh, it's only for soft things, because that's not entirely correct. You can use it on hard things, and even more powerful blue lasers. I've done metal engravings with 20-watt blue lasers, so you can mark metal with that. Just know that, even though there's two lasers in here, primarily the better one for metal is the 1064 nanometer, and the better one for most of your softer materials is usually the 450. The 1064 also works on plastics and things like that, but that's how easy it is to switch between the two. I just can come on here and literally on the touch screen touch it, and it will go back and forth to either one of the lasers that I want to use. So it's two lasers technically built into one machine, which is really nice, because I have some other lasers that have interchangeable heads, but I actually literally have to take off the 2-watt infrared head and put on a different head to switch between the lasers. This one I don't have to take anything apart. It's literally just touching a button and I can go from the one laser to the other. What's also really neat is that you can use both, and there are times that using both lasers can be advantageous. Sometimes we do what are called a cleaning pass, where you might hit something with one and then clean it with the other laser. So there are instances where having the two immediately available at just a touch away is very useful. All your lasers, when you're using them, they have to be focused. And there's different types of focusing system. A lot of lasers use measurement system, where you're using something to measure the distance from the laser to the item that you're engraving. Some of them use cameras. Some of them use measuring devices that will automatically measure for you. This laser uses a 2-dot system, and I'm just going to show you quickly what that looks like. Here I have an iPad. I know it looks like a computer because it has a keyboard down here, but it really is just an iPad. And that's another thing I love about the Laser Pecker 4. It works with just about anything. It will work with an iPhone, an Android phone. It'll work with a computer. It'll work with an iPad. It works with laptops. So you have a broad range of things that you can use to connect to the Laser Pecker 4. It's also Bluetooth. I don't have to have wires running to this. I can, if I want to, I can run a wired connection to it. But that's really great when we talk about the mobility of this, is that I can go somewhere with an iPad or an iPhone, and I could do a very quick engraving with this machine. I don't need a computer. I can literally do it with my phone. For this, I'm going to show you just the iPad, and we will come over here, and I'm just going to do some simple text just so you can see what that would look like for the focusing system, and we'll jump to that in a second. So I'm just going to put my name in here real quick, something nice and simple. So I click Paul. I'm coming over here. I'm going to hit this check mark, and it's going to put that inside of this. Now this over here is a representation of that plate that I showed you where the engraving area is, and I can move the engraving mark around on there. So if I wanted it to engrave up top there, down here, in the middle, depending on where I put my item in there, we're going to leave it right there in the center. And then, as mentioned earlier, we have to focus the laser, and it's really simple. We start by hitting preview, and then I'll hear a beep, and if you look over here, you'll see it, and I'm going to open it up so you can see it even better. I'm going to open the door, and you'll see we see two things. How well this glass also blocks blue laser, because that blue little box is from the blue laser, and that's showing me where the engraving would be placed. So the word Paul, my name, would be inside of that box. And the other two are just two little red dot lasers. And you can see the minute I close this, you can't see the blue anymore, because the blue light is not good for your eyes, which is why we have this special glass here to protect it. Just to be clear about that, when I say it's not good for your eyes, this isn't going to hurt you because this is a very low level. It's fine to look at it for placing the engraving. You just wouldn't want to look at it when the laser is actually in the process of engraving. That's not going to hurt you. It's too low of a power when it's just giving you the preview that it would hurt you. So what we have to do here is, if I wanted to engrave this, the first thing I have to do is focus it. So these two little dots, I have to raise or lower the machine, and I can do that simply by these two buttons up here. You'll see I have an up and down button right here. And as I press this, it goes up and down 1 millimeter at a time. And if I hold it, it'll move a lot faster. So I'm just going to focus again back down here on our dots. And I'm now pressing those buttons and I'm lowering that head down. And what I want to do is bring those two little red dots together. And once they're one dot, one solid dot, now I have my laser in focus. Whatever is in this blue box will be perfectly in focus and nice and sharp for my engraving. And that's how you place something. To give you an example, I'm just going to throw a little piece of wood down here. You know, I could put this, if I wanted it in the top left corner of this little piece of wood, I would put my little blue box simply up there like that. It will engrave in there. And as I showed you before on the computer, and I'll come out a little wider here so you can see it. I'm going to do both now here. So I'm going to move the pawl down to the right area corner. And if you look over here, you see it's moving inside of there. So you can see I can move that engraving wherever I need it. So I can move it on the screen. Is another thing that I can do, is I can move that box around. So I use the red dots to focus, but once it's focused, I can move that engraving wherever I need it. Just keep in mind, wherever it's focused for that particular height. So it's probably a little hard to see here. I focused on this plate. If I was engraving on this, we would actually want to focus on this. And it might be a little hard to see, but it's a tiny bit off. It's not a perfect one dot. So I would have to adjust this. And right there that looks pretty good to me. So that looks like one nice solid dot. So now it's actually set for the proper height of this item. So always remember that when you focus it, you want to focus it on the area and the highest point that you're going to engrave on whatever that item is. And then you can move it around wherever you need it. So like say if this was a knife, I wouldn't want to put it all the way down here because it might have to stick out. But if my knife was just this big and I was doing the engraving, you know, up here, I can move it more in the machine, so then I could close the door. Another thing you're gonna do when you have lasers is you do lots of testing. One of the things I've always liked to do for knife engravings was to test on stainless steel. This is a stainless steel business card and it's a pretty thick one. And it's always given me a very good representation of how a knife is going to engrave. If I want a nice dark black engraving, I can use the settings on this card and usually get very close to what you're going to see here. And you can see, you can even get some different colors. So if you look here, it might be a little hard to tell on the camera here, but some of these almost look gold-like. So you can even get variations. So if you look up here, this like 61 and 36, and this is the power over here. So we have our power, and then we have our speed are the two settings for the Laser Pecker. And they've recently done some updates. So early on, they used to use a thing that they called depth, but they now have gone to the terminology that most of the other lasers use. But basically, strongest, darkest setting that I can do on a Laser Pecker 4 is an 8K engraving at 100% power and 100% depth, or what we are now probably referring to speed, which would be the slowest speed, and it depends on different lasers, call them different things. So by making a test card, I can kind of pick what I want and hopefully get very close to those results. And if your material is very close to what you're doing, so most knives are stainless steel. By using the stainless steel business card, I know if I use 100% power at 100% depth at 8K, I should get a very deep, dark black engraving like this one here. Laser Pecker, they're constantly updating their software, as are all the laser companies that I have lasers with. One thing I do like that they have started to do is they have changed to using more common terminology that we see from most of the other laser companies and other software. So you'll see in here, they actually have a conversion, because when they started out, they used to use a thing that they called depth. And most of the other companies don't really use depth. They use velocity or millimeters per second, centimeters per second. A lot of them use their like a speed setting. When Laser Pecker updated their firmware, they have converted to that, but they wanted, since they knew a lot of people did testing before, they wanted them to still be able to use their old settings. They made a conversion calculator. So as I told you before, if I wanted this black engraving, it was 100% power, 100% depth. If I came over here and I put 100 in on the depth and I hit done, you can see it converted it for me. My velocity would be 3 millimeters per second. And I think eventually they will probably do away with that and just go to the millimeters per second. But if you need that because you have a bunch of old settings, all you have to do is click up here and it will give you that handy calculator, so you can go in, punch in your old settings and find out what the new settings should be. The other thing that's a little different that they do is that they use a thing called K. And I would call this, to me, this kind of, in photography, it's kind of a high definition TV kind of a term. So we got 1K, 2K, 4K, 8K. Most of your other laser softwares, they refer to this as either lines per centimeter, lines per inch. Laser Pecker just picked a different way of doing it. Less lines in an engraving would be 1K, where an 8K is literally like filling every little thing in the engraving. But it also will give you the deeper, darker engravings. So the lower you go on this, it's also going to bring the time down of the engraving. So if you do something at 8K at 100% power, at the slowest power, it might take a good bit of time for it to complete that engraving. Now, the great thing with knife engravings, at least for me, is that typically it's just someone's name engraved into a knife. And if it's a small knife, even though it might take a little bit of time at 8K, at 100% power and 100% depth, it's still typically, for me, usually only a few minutes. We're not talking hours of time. Now, if you were to do a really huge engraving at that, I mean, it could even literally probably take over a day that you might have to run something if you were trying to do a really big, detailed, deep, dark engraving into a big piece of metal. And if that was the case, this probably isn't the laser for you. You probably would want to be looking towards a very high watt fiber laser with a lot more speed. If you're just starting out, you're just getting into laser engraving, you want to be able to do what is the most common stuff, which is usually, for me, it's a lot of chefs who want their name on their knife. Chef Michael, Chef Paul, Chef Bob, whatever they want put on their knife. And that is really easy to do with this laser. And in no time, you can pay this laser off doing very simple little engravings just like that. The other beauty of it is it can do a lot of other cool things. And I will discuss some of the other things that I've engraved with mine. I have done tumblers with this laser, and it does have a tumbler rotator. So this is for tumblers. And I can put a tumbler in here, and I can set the laser up so it's shooting down on top of the tumbler, and I can laser engrave a tumbler, I can laser engrave glass, I can do all kinds of things, cups, anything I can fit in here. And this is got little vice clamps on it. I can actually do them, and I've done this before. It's actually a way that I like to do them with the Laser Pecker Four. Is a lot of times I'll stand it up and have the tumbler standing in here, and I can set the laser up so it's shooting at a 90-degree angle, and the tumbler just spins straight around instead of having to do it on the roller. So a lot of really cool things that you can do with the tumbler engraver if you want to do that. And that's a nice little option and something else that you can offer in your shop. Now, another feature that this has is an extension. So let's say you want to do something bigger than this area. Say I wanted to engrave a big piece of slate like this. And this is just a test piece of slate. But you can see if my design wanted to fit on this whole thing, I could only engrave something that's this big and that wide, which is, you know, not really utilizing that whole piece of slate. So what Laser Pecker did that's really cool is this slide extension. So I can hook this up to the laser. Now, I am limited on my width to the 6 inches across, but lengthwise, I can now do something much longer. And I have done this with slate engravings, no problem. I can put my piece of slate on here, lay my engraving out on here, and this will move it all the way under that laser for me and keep moving it and engrave whatever I need done on this slide. And this slide can be set up so that it goes, left to right or straight up and back. I do have to take it out of this protective case. When I do that, that does cause a couple other situations. One, you want to make sure you wear your laser safety glasses if you're using the laser outside of the protective case. Or the other thing that you can do, and this is what your Laser Pecker comes with, this particular case is not included. This is an add-on. So I added this case, but it also comes with this little fume hood here, which is magnetic and locks on here. So if I have to take my Laser Pecker out of this case and either use it mobily, where, like I said, if I wanted to hold it up against something, I can do that. The other nice thing that's really cool is that this is set for the proper distance for focusing. So I can literally hold this right up against something and it will be focused at the right distance. So as I said to you, there's also always a distance that's proper for focusing. And you can see this specific tool here was made for measuring focus. And you can see they made this lens cover and fume hood that proper distance so that you can use that to focus with too. So if I was using the little slide extension and I took the laser completely out of the case, I can still use my fume extractor and hook it up to this, and air purifier will connect to the back of all of these devices. And let me just show you that real quick, because that's really cool too. And it's just part of like how well they thought a lot of this design out. So if you look over here to the right, this is the intake hose for my air purifier. And like I said, I can hook this to this. So you can see this has a little fan on the back. And this is designed, they snap right together. So then I can snap that back on, that's held on with magnets. And then I can take this whole case off of here. I don't need to use it. And this will extract the fumes for me still, so that I'm not breathing stuff that I don't want to be breathing and not having it go into my room. And it simply, when I'm done with it, I can put it right back on this because it has the same connector in the back here. And I just simply snap that in and it's good to go. Now let me show you my fume extractor, this little box, and it's not huge. You can see here's my hand on top. It's a nice size. It has a carry handle on it. Inside of here are the filters that capture all of the dirt. There's a HEPA filter inside of there, and all I have to do when I want to use it is come down here and turn it on, and you'll see I get this cool little blue light that comes on, and depending if it's variable speed, so I can turn it up, turn it down, and there you can see it started, and now it is sucking the air out of there down through this tube, going into the air purifier, cleaning that air, and then it's coming back into my room here after being cleaned. So that's all that's doing. And it's connected up right to that back where that fan is. And if I don't need it that strong, you can see I can turn it down. That's the lowest speed. So you can see it's got some power. If I really need, if I'm cutting wood and it's creating a lot of smoke, you know, I might want it on that high power. Now, speaking of cutting, let's take a quick look at what you have for cutting. They do give you a cutting plate. So if you're using the laser to cut, I would put this plate in here. This is designed so that you can cut stuff on it and it not damage your plate down here if you're doing engravings. And you can see I did one time accidentally run it, and you can see, so it engraved something in there. No big deal. This also has little screws and pieces that I can put in here, little frame pieces. So if I was doing the same thing over and over and over again, like business cards, I can put a little frame in here. In fact, I think I have it right here. Let me show you so here's the little frames I was telling you about. So these are made that I can screw them in to this plate here. If I was going to do business cards for somebody and I set it all up and I had this perfectly positioned and I just want to do one after another, I can put the card in there, hit go, pull it out, take another card, and with this locked in place, I can just throw the next card in there. It's in the exact spot I need it, and just go to the next one and next one and next one. Without using something like this, I would have to, you know, position it and check it every time. If I just threw it on the bed and didn't make sure that it was in the exact, you want to get it in the same exact spot again if you're doing multiple of the same item. But if you're not doing multiple of the same item, not that big of a deal. Also, the slide extension has a cutting plate on it too. If you want to engrave or cut on that, or if you want to cut something bigger, you can use that also for large cutting, because it does have the cutting plate on it. So now let's talk a little bit about portability. As I said, you can take this laser with you on location. You could even offer a mobile engraving service to go and engrave things on location. And one of the great things is you don't even need to carry a huge extension cord to be able to run the laser from. And even if you wanted to bring your fume extractor too, you could bring your fume extractor, because you can run your laser off of one of these battery packs that Laser Pecker has made for the LP4. The other really cool thing is you can also run your fume extractor. And you'll see here, I have two of these. I just recently picked up another one because I wanted to be able to run both my laser and the fume extractor on location. So that's why I got two. Unfortunately, you can't run both off of one, and it would really probably drain the battery even faster, but you can get a second one of these, and these are fairly affordable. They're right around $150. If you want to run your fume extractor, or say you need to, say you're at a location that's going to require you to do that, you could literally just take two of these battery packs with you and run everything from there. So the Laser Pecker Power Pack Plus will run a Laser Pecker 4 for 3.2 hours, which is a pretty good period of time. And most likely, even if you were doing an event, I mean, if you were super busy, you might be engraving straight through for 3.2 hours. But typically, you 3.2 hours for most events, farmers markets and things like that, that'll probably get you through the whole event. And the other great thing is, in an emergency, it also has all these other connectors on it. So you could charge if your phone was dead, you could charge your laptop. It's got other connectors. You can power other devices, not just your Laser Pecker 4 with it. So if you need it because something else is running out of power, it's a nice little compact size. And you can see it also can come with a little carry bag. I have a carry bag for this one, and that's really great. And it charges with a USB-C cable, and that's the Power Pack Plus. So let's wrap this up and let me give you my opinions of who I think this is for and if I think it's worth your money. I can truly tell you I have zero regrets over my Laser Pecker 4 purchase. I absolutely love this laser. As many of you know, I own several lasers now. This is still one of my very favorite because of all the things I pointed out to you. It is the absolute easiest laser in my shop to set up quickly and just do something. So when I get something small that somebody wants engraved, a lot of times this is my go-to. I think if you're thinking of starting out, getting into laser engraving, this is an excellent choice. You can do a whole lot of things with it. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space. It's mobile. You could even take this if you're a mobile sharpener and you wanted to get into doing some laser engraving or offering that on the road. That's another thing that you could do. And I am just constantly finding uses for this laser. I have used it to engrave so much of my own stuff on top of it. Recently, one of the things I did, I have a client who brings me lots of scissors. She has a tailoring shop, and she has girls that are cutting fabric all day long. And some of the scissors are really old. Some of them are literally 40-year-old scissors, and they have some, weird angles on them, and some of them have different angles on each blade. And I've sharpened them several times now. And what I've done to make life easier on me is that when I've taken the scissors apart, I've laser engraved, etched on the inside of that blade what the particular angle is, so that I can set my twice as sharp machine really fast. So it can even be useful for you, not just for selling things to your customers, but also just for making your life a little bit easier. There's really no shortage of uses that you'll find. You're going to find that there's all kinds of things that you're just going to love engraving if you get a laser engraver. And this is a fantastic unit to start with, and you will be bombarded if you start looking at laser stuff. There's a lot of new lasers coming out now. You have the Laser Pecker 5 by this same company that's coming out, and it's going to be a fiber laser. And you have X-Tool coming out with their fiber laser. But keep in mind, these fiber lasers, some of them they're pretty pricey. I mean, they're going to be $3,000 to $4,000. Some of them are going to be, almost double what you would pay for this. That's also why I think this is a great unit to start with. You don't have to make some huge dollar commitment to, something that might take you longer to recoup your money. When I bought my Laser Pecker 4, I went back and I looked at some of laser engravings that I did over time. I paid this off in about 3 months, which is really great. I thought it was going to take a lot longer than that, and it just didn't. It was very easy upsells, especially to my chefs and doing these engravings, and I was able to get this paid off in a very short period of time. So if you're looking to jump into laser engraving, Laser Pecker 4 is a great option for you if that might be something you're interested in. In the description to this video, I will leave you links to all the different places you can get Laser Pecker. You can buy it directly from Laser Pecker. You can buy Laser Pecker through Amazon, and they do sell all over the world. Have a great day, everybody.